Are you looking to learn how to invest? Are you looking to make your money work for you? You're in the right place. I'm a teacher, I'll be a multimillionaire, and I will be a millionaire in a few years. And I learned about the power of investing. I always saved my money, but I didn't know the power of investing or how to. I did hear that you should invest. You should make your money work for you. You should send the money out and make them be soldiers to make you more money. But I didn't know what the heck to invest in or what to do. So I'm going to talk to you about why to invest, how it's powerful, why everyone says to do it, how to actually do it yourself. And I also have a resource that's coming out that will give you everything you need to know if you want even more information. Let's get into it. So first, why should you even consider investing? Why can't I just save? Why can't I do something else? You're more than welcome to do other things. You need to invest in an asset. The best asset is investing in your knowledge and in your education and your ability to earn more money. But once you do that, you want to put your money in something, an asset that will make you even more money. And with the stock market, there's compound interest, which we'll talk about, and that is one of the key differences that makes this asset class so powerful. If you've just been saving your money, that's great. That's a great financial principle. That is how we've been able to save hundreds and thousands of dollars, is by paying ourselves first, by putting money in our bank account, paying us first. We are our first bill. That is key. But if you're like me, I was getting 0.001% of interest on the money I put in. My money's not making money. I'm not spending it or giving it away, but it's not growing as fast as it could. And it's actually losing money. If you're saving, this is important, but you are losing money due to inflation. On average, the inflation rate is about 2% every single year. So your money, even if it's being saved, it's going down in value. It's going down. And so you have to invest so that you can make more money over time. And so your money goes up in value. Typically, if you put your money in the stock market or in an investment, the S&P 500 is the classic index fund or ETF that Warren Buffett, who's the best investor of all time, and that's the only asset that class that he invests in is the stock market. He's been doing it since he was 11 years old. So he has the knowledge, he's in the right vehicle, and the right amount of time. That is part of the formula for being able to make a lot of money in the stock market, is having money and time. And if you have those things plus the right vehicle, you don't want to just be invested in nothing. If you're in the right place, you will have a lot of money. Now, why this works, I was talking about the S&P 500 because on average, it returns 10% over time. Some people like to say 8 to 9% to be safe, but if you look at the data and the historical returns, there's up and down years, up and down times, but over time, it returns 10%. I'm a teacher. It's just like in the classroom. If you give a test, there's students who maybe get 100s, students who get 88s, 95s, maybe a 70, 60, hopefully not a 22, but maybe that's there. So you're going to have a range of days. The stock market can be up 50%. It could be down 20%. It can be up 33%. It just depends. And I could put a chart here showing you some of the ups and downs and the average returns over the last 10 or so years. But on average, when you add all of those up and you find the average, the basic math, you're not going to get that 22 test score or that 100. You're going to get somewhere in between, not exactly in between, but somewhere in there. And so on average over time, if you invest, 10% is a lot more than that 0.001% in a regular bank account. And hot tip right here while I'm here, if you are saving your money and maybe you don't want to invest yet, or you want to at least make your emergency savings make you more money, you can invest in a high yield savings account. And this is super easy to do. It depends on certain times in history and in the market. Like right now, it's like a 4% interest rate that they'll give you. But my husband and I got a 5.5% over the last couple of years for our emergency savings. It was savings that we wanted to have and that we wanted not for the future, but we wanted to make it work, right? If you have an emergency savings, this is key so that if you have an unexpected payment or if you have something that you're working towards and you're going to need that money soon, you have it. But your money's not losing money because it's making more than the inflation rate is going down. If inflation, you're losing 2%, if I'm getting 5.5%, my money is staying the same and it's actually increasing. And we use Betterment. There's a bunch of high yield savings accounts out there. It's literally the same thing as a bank. You just I would go to Betterment, say open high yield savings, put the money in there, and boom. You got it. We made a couple $1,000s in interest just last year alone. And I know a couple $1,000s might not seem like a lot, but otherwise you'd be losing your money. And this can add up, especially when you get more money over time. Okay, so maybe you're interested in investing. You're like, that sounds like a good thing. This would be something that is interesting. And actually, let me show you really quick. The penny invested. So if you were to invest a penny every single day, you would double it. What would happen if you doubled the penny after 30 days? Do you think it would be a lot of money? Do you think you'd have any money? A penny doubled every day for 30 days is over $1 million. $1 million. And that's the power of compounding. It's where your money gets invested and the dividends or the returns you make get invested and it keeps growing and growing. And then you get to 500, then you get to 1,000, you keep doubling it and doubling it. And so as the snowball's rolling down the hill, it's accumulating more snow, more money. And then it just becomes this thing that just takes off over time. It's just like people working on their goals. If they keep eating the healthy meals over and over again and keep going to the gym over and over again, and they stay consistent and they stay persistent and they keep going, they're eventually going to be healthy. They're eventually going to lose weight. They're eventually going to get stronger and gain more muscle. It takes time, just like investing in the stock market. But once you get going, you are just on a roll. You have your habits down, you have things going, and you just are strong and fit and healthy and capable. And that's the same thing with your money. So what do you invest in? Most millionaires, they invest in a low-cost index fund or an ETF, which is an exchange-traded fund, and it tracks the same thing. Either way is fine. ETFs can be lower cost. They can also be traded anytime. If you have an index fund, it can only be traded when the market is open. So that is a key difference. You also can pay a little less tax and it still will track the same index. Like the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies in the United States. And so it tracks that. So both are great options. I could put a chart up here if you're interested in looking at the pros and the cons, but either works. And the S&P 500 is a classic one because of how much it returns historically, but it also gives you access and exposure to all 500 companies. And sometimes it's 502 companies. I'll put a list of the top companies right now. It's so amazing. Have you heard of these companies? Maybe you've heard of Apple. You probably have heard of Apple. Maybe you see Amazon or Tesla, but there's Nvidia, which if you are interested in stocks and finance, you might have heard that one. That was something that people picked a while ago and it's just doing amazing. Or have you heard of Alphabet? There's some companies that you might not have heard of, but it's interesting. And one of the top companies is also Exxon Gas, the gas company. So it's interesting to see too which companies are doing well and which markets. And the great thing about something like the total, where you're getting total exposure for the S&P 500, the top companies, the best of the best, if Tesla isn't doing well anymore, it doesn't matter. You're going to get whatever companies are the best currently. So if something else, some random company like Lululemon, what if Lululemon just jumped up there, some random thing. I was trying to come up with something interesting, but can't think of anything right now. But if that were to be the best company, you'll get it. And what's cool is it's not just some of the technology stocks, it's also healthcare, it's also petroleum. It gives you a wide variety and exposure, and I'll pop that here. You get exposure to different types of stocks instead of just Amazon or Tesla or Facebook. You get a mix. There's also the total stock market index fund. There's a variety of index funds that you can choose from. You can also choose from an international index fund, so it gives you exposure to the best international companies. I know when I was speaking to a financial advisor with Vanguard a few years ago, they talked about how the international index funds aren't performing as well as the S&P 500 currently, but they see the international stocks being better in a few years. And so they suggested being invested in those. Now, some people are just invested in the S&P 500. Some people choose to do a target date index fund, which is something if you are going to retire in 2050, then you can set that as a target date. You pick that target date index fund, and it's going to invest in things for you that will eventually be less risky. So the investments initially will be more risky when you're younger, when you're just starting in the workforce, and over time it will get a little more conservative so that you won't experience these big ups and downs in the market. And so that is something some people just like to do a target date, and they do that. I really like the S&P 500. That's probably my favorite, but there's a mix and you can't really go wrong with those. Look at the historical returns. That's something about, you can look at that with the total stock market. I can show you one here. You can look at that definitely with the S&P 500. You can look at the international performance, and you can also look at the target date. Target date index funds are newer, so you won't get as much data, which some people don't like, but I just want to show you that there are a few options. If you're looking to invest, you need to pick a brokerage account. And so a brokerage account or a broker, they are these companies that will offer the stocks and the products. And so there's Vanguard, there is Fidelity, and there's Charles Schwab. Those are probably the top three that I would recommend. I am not a financial advisor, but I did a ton of research, and these are really, really reputable brokerages to choose from. I currently use Vanguard. We've also used Fidelity before, and Charles Schwab in the past. I know my grandparents had used it and they really enjoyed it. Some people like Fidelity because the user interface is a little bit more easy to use or friendly. I really like Vanguard. It's very thorough. It's very detailed. It is easy to use for me as well. And Vanguard is one of the original brokerages, and they have some stocks that you can't get other places, or that, like, if you're with Fidelity, you'd have to buy those stocks and you pay a little bit of a fee. And so I could put information or a little box here of which one to maybe consider or choose from. Don't spend too much time thinking about this. I know I was like, I want to pick the perfect one, or I want to pick the exact right one. But if you get in any of these, you're probably going to be fine. And I know with Vanguard, it's done a great job for us. And so with this, you will want to go ahead and pick your brokerage. You'll sign in, make an account, and it will walk you through the steps. It'll walk you through the steps to get started. When you decide which brokerage, you want to make sure you don't just pick a random account. Okay, that is one thing to make sure, and I definitely want to give you that guidance. You want to pick the right account for you. Now, if you pick a general brokerage account, that's fine. The account is simply like a file folder of where you end up buying your stocks. Like, you can buy the S&P 500 anywhere. You can do it through a tax advantage account like a Roth IRA, a general brokerage account, an IRA, a 401k, something at work that you might hear about if you are in the workforce or if you have a W-2 job. So those are like the file folders that basically tell you what tax advantages there are, what restrictions there are, etc. But you can invest anywhere. And so that was the key thing that I didn't really understand. But you can open a general brokerage. We have one of those. We also use tax advantaged accounts. And I have a ton of information on this. I could put some here, but if you want a lot more information on walking you through all the steps, giving you background information about investing, and just diving more, a written resource in addition to the video resource, type investing in the comments below and I'll send you a link. If you're interested in that, I put together like a 200-page ebook on this because I learned so much about it and I just want to provide that resource for you guys. But here is a few of the tax advantaged accounts that I can just tell you about and why they're awesome and why you might want to consider them. Okay. And so with a 401k, you have that at work. And now there is options where you can invest money. And if you invest enough money, you can receive an employer match. So if you have a job right now, a W-2 job, or if you're a student who will eventually get a job, you want to make sure you get that match because that's free money from your company. Say you have to invest about $3,000 or $5,000, your company might match that. And so they might give you an extra $3,000 or $5,000. So if you make $80,000 a year, that's going to be $85,000 if you got that $5,000 match. And so that's free money and that's a great thing to do. And it encourages you to invest and to save money for the future so you can retire and be financially independent. Now, there's other accounts like a Roth IRA. This is probably one of the best accounts that I love. There is a triple tax advantage account, which is an HSA, a health savings account that you can consider. And you typically have to use the money for medical purposes, but you never get taxed on it at all. You never do. You get to put the money in from your employer before they even do taxes on it. Then it grows tax-free. You can take it out tax-free as long as you use it for medical expenses. I think after a certain age, you can take it out and it doesn't have to be used for medical expenses, or just in your lifetime, you're probably going to have to spend a decent amount of money on medical things. And so it's nice having that money. But regardless, my favorite is a Roth IRA. It's amazing. It's a double tax advantage account. Currently, you can invest $7,000 a year into it. They don't let you do too much money because it just is that powerful. But basically, you're taxed on your money right away. Like the government taxes it, just like normal with your paycheck. It takes the income tax, etc. And then you get to put your money in and it grows tax-free and it gets taken out tax-free after it makes all of that money and that millions of dollars. And it is powerful. Let me show you right here. If you invest $7,000 a year, which is about $583.33 a month for 30 years, look at how much money you'll have that's tax-free. What if you do this for 40 years? Look at this. And if you do it for 50 years, look. Amazing. This is one way to become a millionaire. So even if you don't want to run your own business, or if you just keep doing the job you do and you're able to put that money aside, $583.33 a month, then you're going to be a millionaire guaranteed. And so this is huge, and you don't have to pay capital gains or pay the government for the money you've made. You get to keep it, which is awesome. There is the restriction that you can't take it out until you're 59 and a half. And so it is for specifically retirement, but it's a great thing to have and a great tool if you're interested. Another thing, if you are married, that your spouse can actually open one as well. My husband has one, I have one. And in that account, remember we talked about it being a file folder. In that account, you can buy the S&P 500, which returns 10% over time. And that's another $7,000. So you can have like $20 million or more if you invest a little over $1,000 a month in this tax shielded account. So this is powerful. There's lots of tax advantage accounts. I'll put a little information here. It's all in my book as well. If you're interested in learning more about that, or as a parent, the accounts that you can use for college savings or other accounts for your kids, there's a lot out there. Take advantage of them. Investing is one of the best things you can do if you have already invested in yourself and you have money, etc. It will compound and grow. So we talked about how that compound interest is critical. It really, really is. It's the eighth wonder of the world, is what Albert Einstein, one of our geniuses, had said. But this is powerful. Let me show you why compound interest is king. So I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you put your money in, you're going to get dividends. You get paid dividends because you are owning part of a company. And to get rich and to get wealthy, you want to look at this quadrant. It's the cash flow quadrant from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I recommend that book or learning about this concept. If you become an investor and an owner, you are more likely to become rich. That is how rich people become rich. They own things like sports teams, like income producing real estate, like stocks, etc. And so you really want to get onto that side of the game. It can help you so much. But if you are putting the money in and it's compounding, you're getting that interest, it is just multiplying and multiplying, and then eventually it just explodes. And if you invest $500 or $1,000 a month for 50 years, if you notice, the principal is the amount of money that you put in. You put in this money, right? And it's a lot of money. But if you end up putting it into the stock market and into something like the S&P 500, you will have 25 times, 10 times, 50 times, depending on how much money you put in and how much time you have. And look at that. Do you see the difference in the gap in the graph? Do you see the difference? And the money that you actually made in interest. Interest is how much money you made that compounded, that was totally extra. It had nothing to do with what you put in. And if you put in $5,000 a month, say you have a lot of money, say you have $5,000 a month to put in, and then you do this every single month for 50 years, look at how much money you have. You would have like $3 million that you put in, $3 million, but if you invest it in the S&P 500, it's like $87 million. That's such a difference just because you invested. And so investing is powerful. I highly recommend it. I recommend you get started. If you want more information or the resource, it is worth it. I highly recommend you check it out or ask me more questions. I'm happy to make more videos for you in the future. But if you invest this time, if you invest this money, if you get started, you will become a multi-millionaire, and it will totally change the game for you. I hope this helped. Feel free to check out this video on how I'm going to be a millionaire in a couple of years as a teacher. I hope it helps.